Sean Sewell with Engearment.com podcast. I'm really excited to welcome back my mentor and friend, Michael Doc Hartle, for the second time. Doc, thanks for your time and thanks for being here.
Hey, it's great to be back with you, sir.
I appreciate you very much. Now, last time you were on, it was February 2nd, I believe, of 2020. I was just getting over a horrible fever, like 104, and had lost my voice, and you coached me through that over the weekend. And then this is pre-COVID. So since then, there's been a lot of changes. We have a lot to catch up on. So I didn't know where to start, I guess at the beginning. So a little bit about yourself, Doc. 25 years in business as a chiropractor. Started semi-pro football at age 38. Just incredible. Like, what gravitated you to start semi-pro football in the first place?
Well, when I was in high school, I was 5'4" as a freshman, so I was a shorter gentleman. And
Yeah.
so I was the football manager of the freshman football team. I was kind of almost personally afraid of playing 6 foot tall guys.
Mm-hmm.
Then I got into bike racing in my sophomore year. My dad always loved riding bikes, so I love riding bikes. So I went from a Schwinn Varsity, the old 40-pound tank of solid steel that you had, and I bought a racing bike. So I raced for a couple of years with that. And I like to say back in my skinny days when I was about 160, 170 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Now I weigh 265. So I'm a huge 265 in that regard. But anyways, so then my senior year, I thought, you know what, I grew up to be 6'1", and I got to about 190 body weight. So a couple of friends were saying, you should play football. So I only played 1 year of high school football. And because of that, I was a second string, but I got a lot of playing time as defensive tackle and a center out there quite a bit. Then I got to graduate from high school, and I joined a gym called Elite Gym in Bloomington, Minnesota. And my buddies went off to college. I stayed home and went to college, University of Minnesota. And I got into powerlifting, and that's when I went from about 175, whatever, up to 275. I just ate a lot of food, ate my parents out of house and home, half a gallon of milk every day, all this other stuff, loaf of bread every couple of days, all that kind of stuff. And did powerlifting for 20 years. And then in 2005, I had my last powerlifting meet. And then I had a patient who played for the Kokomo Mustangs, a semi-pro team not too far from here. And so I started asking him some questions, and I thought, well, maybe I could try that. And I also at the time was a coach of track and field for my son's junior high, and also a coach of football. So I knew something about football. I love football. And so I looked into it. And then another guy became a patient of mine, and he played for a team called the Lima Warriors, which Lima, Ohio is about 70 miles east of here. So we used to drive there twice a week. I get done with practice, pick him up, drive twice a week there, 70 miles back, practice, play with him. I got some playing time, but not a whole lot of playing time. I had a lot of good players on that team. And then when that team got done, I was done for the year. I was going to go back next year. Well, then a teammate of mine called me and said, hey, you want to play some more football this year? And I said, sure. And so there's a team just south of here, about 20 minutes, called the Adams County Patriots. They play at Belmont High School in a town called Decatur, Indiana. And so we drove down there, and I played the last couple of games of the season. Then I joined them for the next year. And that's when things really took off. So one of my football coaches on the Lima Warriors always said, dude, you are like the strongest guy in our leagues. I just got done powerlifting. So I squatted 705, bench 535, delta 635. So not too bad. And he says, as a defensive tackle, you can hit the offensive lineman like a tank, but then you stop. And I thought, that's a good point, because for 20 years in powerlifting, my feet haven't moved. My body has moved, but my feet don't know how to move. Okay. I know how to run and all that stuff, but in a athletic motion. So then I applied what I taught my track kids as far as in the off season, and I got my feet moving. And then I also had to give up the absolute strength aspect of powerlifting. So that was difficult because I enjoyed being strong. I mean, when I squatted 705, that was a goal to always squat over 700 pounds. That was just amazing. Benching 535. One of my patients said, man, you bench over a quarter ton. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But so that's a lot of weight. But then if I'm going to play 3.5 hours of football in the summertime, I have to give up some of that absolute strength and have more strength endurance. So then consequently, that spring of April 2006, I went to Pavel's RKC certification, learned how to use kettlebells. Because up until that point, I had actually bought a couple of kettlebells, and they were paperweights in my gym. They were dust gatherers.
Yes.
So I didn't know how to use them. So you combining the kettlebells with the barbell, and then using my track training, I became faster and faster and able to move my feet. So then joined the season in 2007. We had an undefeated season. We went down to Florida. We played the national championship game. We won. So we were AA national champions in semi-pro football.
Wow.
The next year we were undefeated. We went 26-0 in 2 seasons. We were the talk of Indiana as far as semi-pro football. We had a lot of good players, and these are, when semi-pro football, it's one of those sports where, you don't know how many people are going to show up for every game. It's not like the NFL where they have a roster of 53 guys and then they have to say, okay, so-and-so can't play. He's on injured reserve for this week. And it's even out in the media about that. Here, we didn't know if we're going to have 10 guys, we're going to have 20 guys, but Patriots, we had a lot of guys. We usually had 25 to 30 guys every game.
Wow.
And so we had a lot of good guys. We had a lot of good substitutes. People went in and out. My defensive coordinator, he has to give me crap all the time. I said, why'd you pull me out of the game? He goes, Doc, I need someone fast. And I took that personally. Not that he was trying to insult me. You remember that series with Michael Jordan, The Last Dance?
Mm-hmm.
And whenever he said, I took that personally, he then dropped 60 points on the other team.
Yeah.
Okay. So in a sense, I was kind of like Michael Jordan. I took it personally. So I made myself faster and faster and faster and everything else. So was captain of the football, one of the captains of the football team and everything else. So I enjoyed it quite a bit. So, I had 20 years of powerlifting of a high level before I actually started playing semi-pro football. So it actually blessed me with making my tendons and my ligament structures around my knees, around my ankles, very, very strong. So I had 300-pound linemen roll into my knees, and they would literally, in a sense, not to brag, but bounced off because I thought this is going to shred my ACL.
Yeah.
And nothing happened. So I have to think that, in the case study, that made my tendons so strong that I was able to withstand all that stress.
Oh, that's great. So you translated powerlifting into structural integrity to handle semi-pro football in a big, big way.
That's a good way to say it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I love it. That is super, super cool. Before we push record on the microphone, I didn't give enough credit to Doc and who he is. So how I met Doc was actually at an SFG certification. He was the team lead. Got it right here. Boom. Team Hartle. I think we're actually Team Metallica, weren't we?
Yes, we were. We had 3 teams. We had Team Hartle, we had Team Zonin, Fabio Zonin, and Team Spezzano. I was Metallica. I think Fabio was what was he?
Iron Maiden, or is he?
No, I think Spezzano was Iron Maiden. I can't remember what Fabio was. Maybe either Man of War or one of his favorite bands there. So we just kind of quote unquote renamed the teams there. So we had a lot of fun at that cert.
Oh, we did. I loved it. And you brought me back to my love for Metallica. And then I got to work with you, learn from you at the StrongFirst Lifter, which is your and Pavel's baby right there. And and we hosted it at our gym. And it was so cool to have you at our gym for that. I think the last time we talked, you're mentioning you're working on version, is it 3 of that curriculum?
Well, not necessarily. Well, yes, but kind of in a slow manner. So it's to be released is to be determined. So.
Fair enough. Well, I look forward to that. One of the things I always give credit to StrongFirst for is how much they go into researching and revising the curriculums. I'm excited to see what's new for the SFG as well. Is there talk of a different or improved snatch technique in there somewhere?
Yes. How did you hear about that?
I know people.
Okay, all right. Yes, we're working on changing some of the mannerisms of how we teach this snatch technique. Mm-hmm. So yes, we are working on that right now, and we're putting together the final touches of that. Brett's been doing a great job as director of education, putting together as far as us masters, and we're kind of getting all that together and working with the people. And so so we're definitely working. I think it's a better technique. Kudos to Tim Allman from Australia for kind of bringing it out.
Yes.
But basically, when you do a kettlebell swing, if you're doing it properly, it's a horizontal projection of force. Mm-hmm. If I were to let go of the bell at the moment of the top part of the swing, the kettlebell should fly out away from me. Centrifugal force.
Yes.
In the kettlebell snatch, we've kind of taught it with that aspect there that the snatch is a version of the swing, and it still is, as far as the point of squeezing your glutes, pulling your kneecaps up, rooting your feet, getting your lats involved. But then we're taking into more of a vertical projection of force up. Oh. And when you have that, So when you bring the kettlebell down after a snatch, you tend to look from the side and someone has got an arc like this.
Yeah.
So we're trying to actually shorten that arc and make it a little bit tighter. And by tightening the arc, it's less stress on the human body, which means then you could do more reps in a shorter period of time with the kettlebell if you hone this technique. So we're still working out the little nuances of it and everything else, and hopefully down the road we'll be showing it. So
Oh, that's super exciting. The snatch was the one that got me the most. I actually partially tore my bicep by my arm will, I showed you, hyperextends a little bit. And so loading that was like, So you taught me to don't go past, you don't need to go as far as you can go. So I'd love to learn this new technique and definitely look forward to that. So thank you for explaining that. I've been curious about that for a while. And then that was Brett Jones he was mentioning, and one of the best people in the world. Love Brett.
I agree.
Such a great guy. Hope to have him back. We had him on last June. I hope to have him on sooner than that.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. And then also off camera, you enlightened me that it's not StrongFirst Master SFG anymore. It is StrongFirst Master Instructor. And can you talk about the process of how that works for the instructors?
Well, in 2017 at the leadership meeting, we kind of talked about the fact that I know Karen Smith, myself, and a few other people had mentioned the fact that it'd be nice if we could actually get rid of Master SFG and call it just Master SF. But to accomplish that, then that means all the master instructors, and then we basically said to senior and team leader instructors as well too, that they had to attend all 3 certifications. So both bodyweight, barbell, and kettlebell. Kettlebell has 2 of them, so you got to go through SFG 1, SFG 2. And everything else. So you have to become certified in all those certifications. We now call that StrongFirst Elite in the organization. So you and students can become StrongFirst Elite just like us masters and seniors and team leaders. But then the other thing, to become a person of leadership, okay, so we want to promote someone from a assistant instructor, say, to a team leadership or whatever else, you must also have a personal training certification. So I have a CSCS from the NSCA. I've had that since 1993. So I got that way back when I was in chiropractic school and everything else. They also have a CPT program, Certified Personal Trainer. NASM has one too. And I can't remember, I think ACSM or some other organizations we allow certain, and that's for the United States. Now, other countries around the world, they have their own different things. I think in Canada, you're required to be certified as a personal trainer. And I think you have to do so many continuing education hours per year and stuff like that. So every country has their own rules. Right now in the United States, to become a personal trainer, you don't even need a high school degree. Yeah. So again, it's, I know they've talked about as possibly getting certifications or requiring certain limits and everything else with all that stuff. I'm not sure where that stands right now. I'd be welcome to doing that as long as we don't necessarily put it too tight with that. I think some countries in the world have too tight of certifications for that, because personal training, it's a lot about not just going through the academic aspect, but also becoming a good experience. And that's where you need to work as an intern or apprentice with someone who's very knowledgeable about that stuff. I know, like Mike Perry, Skill of Strength out in Boston, he has some interns out there, so he goes along and coaches these people, and then eventually I think he either hires them or they go on their own way and that kind of stuff. But they're better coaches because they work with Mike and his wife.
Oh, I love that. And I think that's great advice, cutting your teeth under a mentor.
Exactly.
Get the hours, the exposure, the failures, the learning opportunities, how to react on your feet, and how to approach people and best serve their needs.
I agree.
Yeah. And I think I would definitely welcome having some kind of regulatory governing body to just keep things somewhat standardized and respectful, because like you said, you see somebody on Instagram doing something really weird and people like, that's personal training. You're like, nope, that's entertainment.
Well, and I can only speak about the NSCA, but through the CSCS program, you have to recertify every 3 years.
Yeah.
Part of the recertification is they do require us to be certified in CPR.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, if I'm working with someone and they decide to have a heart attack or they go unconscious, whatever, I can put down my stuff. I can go ahead and start doing CPR on them and everything else to try to revive them, meanwhile activating 911 and everything else, all that stuff. So I think other organizations require that. I'm not 100% sure, but I know this, the NSCA requires us to be CPR certified, which I'm also required as a doctor to have that as well too. So we just get it done every year. Remember, we just recertified our whole office here a few weeks ago.
So. Oh, I love doing it as a whole team. It's so great. We host a first aid and CPR, and of course, Brian, retired Navy, so he's got his woofer. So a little bit elevated than my knowledge as far as medical, and it's always fun
Mhm.
to pick his brain. We've dealt with people having strokes, all kinds of syncopations and stuff. So it's good to have that in the toolkit for
I
sure.
would definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
I even told my staff, hey, if you hear a big body hit the floor, it's probably me. If that happens, I want
Mhm.
you coming back here. So my son, my youngest son, is one of my assistants here, and part time while he's going to college. He says, "Well, Dad, I'm just going to jump on your chest with my feet." I said, "No, wait a minute now. Okay, you're only supposed to depress 2 inches. Now don't go 5 inches. Okay, I don't need you breaking my sternum." So
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious. Hey, he's your son. He wants to rough around with you. That's fun. Well,
yeah,
speaking of your sons, I really enjoyed getting a phone call this summer about going camping. Where'd you guys go camping?
we went to Devil's Lake State Park in Wisconsin, which is by Wisconsin Dells. It's interesting because it's a beautiful park. They both have a wide open campground, which is basically not a lot of trees where people can park RVs, but they also do tent camping. And then they have kind of a, they would call it more remote. I've been to Boundary Waters many times. I would not call it remote, but I would call it a little bit more kind of backcountry thing. So, I could see another tent down the road, but basically we had our own kind of foliage. We went camping there for a few days. Interesting thing about Devil's Lake State Park, they have a huge hill and next to the state park. So you can tell this whole area was basically formed by glaciers.
Yeah.
And they have these huge granite rocks that people have created trails on all the way up to the top. So when I went up to the top, I was exhausted. It was like doing a bunch of one leg squats
Yeah.
because we're not just talking like a normal step up, going up a stairs is like 12 inches. We're
Mhm.
talking like 24, 36 with each leg, spending about an hour going up a hill. So we got to the top there. We had some great views, great photos and everything. And then we had to climb back down. And climbing back down was its own animal too, in addition to going up, even though it's a little bit easier. But now you're doing, sorry for talking about strength training, but you're doing eccentric loading because you're constantly slowing down your gravity of your body weight going down the hill. So we had a great time up there. Then we drove to Minnesota, saw my mom, and hung out there, and then we came back home.
Oh, sounds like a great trip. Great
Yeah.
family trip. I love it. And that's my favorite thing to do is go hiking. Um, as Pavel talked about, we hosted Pavel at our gym for the strong endurance, and we're going to do that again here in November.
Excellent.
And my first time meeting Pavel, and what a great person! Just humble, professional, very kind, very direct. Great to work with. And our colleague Derek Toshner and Ryan Toshner got up and spoke about the mountains of Wisconsin. I believed him. I'm naive. I'm from Nebraska. Like, you should come see our mountains. I'll be there, Derek. There's no mountains. Right? So, but to your point, yeah, you're basically lunging up when you're ascending a mountain or that big rock, and then the eccentric load coming down, I think, is the most stressful part on the knees, especially,
Right.
which is why we train.
Well, and the thing is, when you're going up, obviously you're using more glute max, more hamstrings. You're still using your whole leg, but then going down, you're using the opposite. You're using your quads and everything else, your anterior tibialis and dorsiflexors and all that kind of stuff, and plantar flexors for that matter. So you're
Yeah.
definitely getting quite a load. If you go up and down, you're getting pretty much everything.
Oh, I dig it. Here's a question then. Do you do any kind of movement prep before going hiking or stretching afterwards?
Not usually before so a couple of years ago, I decided to start doing some more walking.
Yes.
And so now I'm walking up to about 2 or 3 miles every weekend and everything else for longer walks. And I do normal walks during the week and stuff. I do about 10 minutes of stretching before I do that, just because I want to, and then just like my powerlifting career, I always did some type of mobility prep, movement prep and everything else before I actually got going. But that same thing, for example, when I went to Pavel's RKC,
Yeah.
the arm bar and the prying goblet squat and things like that, and then thoracic mobilization with a foam roller, things like that to get my stuff ready for the lifting ahead. I do basically some mobility prep before I go walking and hiking. This one I did not going up that hill because I was in a tent and we had dirt, and so I did a little bit of some stretching and everything else, but not a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I was definitely. So when we got done there, came back, we took a shower and all that stuff, and I was exhausted. I crashed in a sleeping bag that night, and got up the next morning. I'm like, I have to go. You have to go pee. So you have to, going pee is not like getting out of your bed and going to the toilet. Going
Yeah.
pee is you have to put your shoes on. I got to find them in the dark. You got to open the zipper up, close the zipper up, not stumble and everything else. And I just felt like my legs were on fire from doing all that walking the day before. But lived through it and everything else. And
Oh yeah. I'm with you. Like, I should say, especially on the podcast, I stretch before everything I do, hiking or splitboarding. I forget. I'm just so excited to see friends or just go see nature and just go do it. Yeah, I'm with you on that for sure. And like you, so I have a rooftop tent, so it's on top of my Forerunner.
I
So
saw that.
yeah, it's so handy. And we camp year round. Every Wednesday night is Wednesday is my day off into Thursday morning, and I go camp, summer or winter. Take the dogs, so I get to do a modified Zercher, carrying 260-pound dogs up the ladder. And like you, middle of the night, I'm like, do I really want to get out of the tent? That's like 8 feet off the ground in a blizzard. You do what you gotta do.
Exactly.
But we like the cold. Cold's fantastic.
Exactly.
Oh, that's so. Is there anything else like that you do for fun besides lift heavy things?
I like spending time with my children. I have two sons left here in Fort Wayne. My other oldest son's in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to go up there. He hasn't been able to come down, but we do some Zoom calls and everything else with him and my other sons. My middle son is 26. He got married last September. So he lives with his wife here in Fort Wayne, about 4 or 5 miles from here. Him and his wife are both actuaries. They work for Lincoln, which is one of the more insurance companies in Fort Wayne. Mm-hmm. And then youngest son, Marcus, he's 19. He's a freshman at Indiana Tech University here in town, and just enjoying life, living with me full time and doing well. So
I'm glad to hear the family's doing well. That's awesome. And yeah, let's talk about the COVID right now, because when we talked last time, it was a free for all. Life was as we knew it, normal, right? And then within a month of our conversation, especially as business owners having brick and mortar operations, mm-hmm. a lot of things changed. And Zoom, obviously has helped. In my personal business, I have different cameras set up multiple different angles, so it was a natural transition. But I've watched a lot of our friends and colleagues like that own operations that had to close down for different regulations and stuff and for safety. What have you learned over the last year, and has it changed your business in any way?
We are actually more busy in my office as far as seeing patients on a week-to-week basis than we were before the pandemic.
Wow.
But when our governor, Indiana governor, when he locked us down, I think it was March 17th or whatever else, we actually were about 50% of what we normally see. So we lost business in that regard. But that was only for about 3 or 4 weeks. And then we had patients starting to come in. We had a bunch of new patients. People were getting tired of sitting, like you and I right now are sitting, doing lots of sitting. But after this call, I got to get up and go do things and everything else with that. So when you look at that, people were doing lots and lots of sitting, lots of front stuff. So they were not necessarily going to their job and everything else. So they got out of their bed, went to the bathroom, drank a cup of water, sat in a computer all day, sat down for dinner, sat down for TV at night, and then hit the sack. So their bodies were not getting any movement. So we had a lot of people who had low back pain, ankle pain, knee pain, all that kind of stuff. So we've still been very busy with that. So we've been blessed to have that happen for us. I know other businesses, like a lot of our friends in StrongFirst, they own gyms. Yeah. And some still can't even go into their gym, or some they may own the gym, they may go into it by themselves, but they can't have students come to them. Now that's where Zoom just took off. I wish I had stock in Zoom before this happened. I'm sure a lot of people have wished that because they'd be almost millionaires by now on paper, because Zoom has taken off and it's given us a whole new appreciation for video calls. We're doing Zoom right now. Yeah. And I can see you perfectly. You can see me good and everything else, and it works great. And before that, I'm a Mac guy, so I have a lot of Mac computers, so I have FaceTime. But Zoom is so much better for recording. I use it with my children. So when I have a family conversation between my 3 sons, my oldest son, Colin, is in Canada and he's on Zoom, so we have all this different stuff. We can do that. I don't record the calls, but it is what it is. And we have a good time with that. But yeah, so Zoom has taken off crazy. So we've had some of the people like Pavel. He's done a lot of stuff on Zoom and everything else. Oh yeah. Both teaching for StrongFirst. There you go. Through with the Pavel. There you go. And everything else. So that's going well. A lot of our other fellow leadership people in StrongFirst are doing that as well too. I don't do that just because I'm so busy with patients. I really don't have a whole lot of time or make time to do that. But it has just gone crazy with it. And I know in Indiana here, yesterday, the governor said that everyone 16 and older can get vaccines. And then next Tuesday, April 6th, is when we're going from a mask mandate to a mask advisory. Wow. So you're not required to wear masks. Now, obviously, private businesses can go ahead and do their own their own counties. He's letting the county health commissioners do their own thing. So some counties are still, like I think in Huntington County, or Huntington City, which is about 2.5 hours south of here, they're having their mask mandate stay until April 30th. Seems fair. Yeah. So it just different businesses can do different things and all that stuff. So thanks. What it is.
I'm glad that you're way busy. That is great news. And a lot of people I've talked to they found a way to make this work. And to your point, my gym that I've had for 10 years, I still haven't been into it. Probably won't be able to go to it to end of summer until we're in the clear here in Denver. So that was kind of heartbreaking. And then my other gym closed, but fortunately, one door closes, or two door closes in this case, another door opens up. So now I'm training full time at our friend's Ryan Humphrey's gym, Existence Athletics, and I love it. We're doing things safely. We do a Zoom. We do a nice camera setup, and so people can do virtually if they don't feel comfortable coming in. It's getting back to a very sustainable. Business is growing, like you said. People are sick of sitting on their asses. They want to get moving.
So Ryan's gym's open, you said?
Oh yeah, it's open.
Okay, all right.
We opened up back in early May, and actually it's been as busy as ever because we have at least half people online. And also it saves people. This is an angle I never thought about. Even though the gym is open, a lot of people I was training virtually through Zoom still want to do the Zoom because it saves them half an hour plus of travel. Don't have to pay for parking. They can keep an eye on the kids or their, whatever else they got projects in front of them. It's convenient, I guess, is a bottom line. And it's still very helpful. Like I've had people setting, as Ryan and I joke, pandemic PRs because they're staying consistent and during a pandemic, and they're closer to their fridge, maybe make a better sandwich after training. I don't know.
There you go.
It's all lining up correctly. More ice cream, possibly. I'm not too sure.
So we call it a PPR then. Pandemic PR.
I like that. That's some good copywriting. Pandemic PR. Yes, I'm going to give you copyright authority on that. That was good.
There you go. Yeah. So, being a doctor of chiropractic, since my hands need to be on patients,
yes,
we couldn't do telehealth. We couldn't do telemed, whatever term you want to use with that. I know some medical doctors have done that, and it's worked out well for some patients.
Sure.
But unfortunately, I needed my hands on people. We had a lot of hand sanitizer in our office. Every room's got one, and everywhere, and we would have extra masks, so someone didn't come in with a mask, we can give them a mask and everything else. But we're looking forward to this mask advisory versus mask mandate. I know that the state of Texas, they went to Governor Abbott, said no more masks and everything else. I don't know if they call it a mask advisory or whatever, but their numbers have been going still steadily down even after he released that. So it's somewhat encouraging with that. And I think I heard yesterday, Major League Baseball opens up today. And I think the Texas Rangers are allowing a full stadium.
Wow.
Yeah. Right. So I know some stadiums in the country they're having limited numbers of people coming in, but the Texas Rangers, I think they're in Arlington, have said that they want a full stadium. So again, we'll see how that goes. And I know the executive vice president of the Rangers said that they're not hoping to be a super spreader, but with all their their precautions and everything else, they should have no issues with that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Things are looking like they're getting really close to getting back to whatever normal was before.
Well, Roger Goodell from the NFL said he wants full NFL stadiums this fall. Now, obviously, football doesn't usually start till September, so we got a few months before that happens and everything else. But with the advent of vaccines, with the advent of people just getting COVID ahead of time or whatever else type thing, it seems to be slowly, hopefully, going away.
I agree, and I've had probably 20% of people I work with get COVID, and so I've had quite a bit of experience working with people who have had it and the lingering effects of it. And fortunately, all the people I know who have had it have made good recovery. And here in Colorado, they're opening it up, I think tomorrow, Friday, the 2nd of April, open to 16 and above. My wife and I are going next Sunday to get our Johnson & Johnson shot. So I'm really excited about getting that done and seeing family in person.
There you go. Yeah. So cool. Now, does your wife go camping with you when you go camping, or a lot of times you by yourself with the dogs?
Oh, she will go if it's above freezing. So pretty much end of May through September. So she's got a good 6 months that she'll go. She's hardy. She has all the drills down. I gave her like a small bag to pack. I'm like, you put whatever you want in there. The very first camping trip, she loaded it with a bunch of undergarments. I'm like, we're going for one night. She's like, I didn't know what to do. Just give me this bag to pack. And so she overpacked it with things we don't need. But over the last decade plus of camping with me and the dog, she's refined her camping accoutrement. And she loves it. But during the winter, it's usually just me and the dogs. And then I go to one of the same spots almost all the time, so people know where it is. And people just randomly show up, and we grill steaks, have some adult beverages, swap stories. And then it's a blast. If you're ever in Colorado, you want to do some winter camping, Doc, I literally have you covered head to toe, down sleeping bags, anything you need. It's a fun time.
I may take you up on that.
Please do. Yeah. As an Engearment, we get sent so much stuff to test. I literally have like 3 different crazy camping stoves. One of them actually powers electronics from BioLite. One of them is made in Pennsylvania, close to you. Its weld is like 60 pounds, and it burns in 2 chambers, and it looks like a jet engine. It's super cool stuff. Yeah. So
That's
we'll
pretty cool.
burn it
Actually,
down.
this summer so one of my goals was to go to every single one of our 50 states before I die.
Yes.
And I just hit North Carolina at the end of 2019. So I was done with all my 50 states. Don't ask me why North Carolina was the last state, but it was. But my next goal now is to go to all the national parks in our country. And I'm talking about the national parks, not the national historical things and everything else. So there's like 62 or 63 of them.
Yeah.
I've already been to like 8 or 10 of them. So this summer, we're doing our California National Park. We're going to hit Yosemite, Kings Canyon, Sequoia National Park, Death Valley. And if I got time left, we're going to hit Joshua Tree and then fly to LAX and come home. So I'll hit probably 4 to 5 national parks this summer.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And my youngest son's going to come with me. He's going to bring a high school friend of his with us and everything else. So we're going to have some good fun, seeing some great landscape and great views, and probably take 1,000 photos.
At least.
Yes.
You cannot take enough photos and videos. It comes in handy. That's why I have a lot of cameras. I'm always taking videos. People laugh, but then they see the video and they're like, that was a good memory.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
Well,
sure.
my father was into photography, so I got into photography, but that was back when the old film days, where you had the 35 millimeter film, you had like 24 shots, you had to then send it to a developer, wait for it to come back. And if you had took 3 crappy photos, they still printed 3 crappy photos. Now we got digital. So if you don't like it, you just go and hit delete. Done.
Exactly.
Gone.
And you can retouch things. I'm not into filters. My wife loves the filters, but you can get Photoshop for free, and it can really a photograph you might have thought you lost. You can change exposure and bring things out. So yeah, digital is the way to go.
I agree.
The best camera you have is the one you have on you, which is usually your cell phone.
Yeah,
they work great.
Yeah, they're digital as far as pixels or whatever is very high, especially the newer one. So.
Oh, it's nuts. Yeah, we got the newer iPhone and it shoots HDR video. I have a $2,000 camera right there, doesn't shoot HDR video. So again, the thing in your pocket is usually the best tool you have.
Right.
Oh, that's great. Well, on year 2, if you want to come through Colorado, I'll show you Rocky Mountain National Park in a heartbeat.
Yes, that'd be excellent. Cool.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite places. I've done my avalanche education, levels 1 and 2 up there. It's really beautiful. Although we had a forest fire. I don't know if you know about the forest fires we had last year.
Mm-mm.
So not just Colorado, I know Washington State, and I believe New Mexico, and of course California.
Right.
We have never had worse forest fires. It was nuts, Doc. Most of the places I would take you camping, we couldn't even get to for July, August, September, October. Not until like the first or second snow. It was nuts.
Yeah, we're heading out to California here at the end of May, so hopefully, we'll avoid all that stuff. I think, California may have some forest fires again this summer. I was talking to Mike Sousa the other day.
Oh, yeah.
And we may actually hook up with him if he's in town for a day or two. But he was telling me they didn't have a lot of rain this last winter, which means that in the mountains they don't have a lot of snowpack. Mm-hmm. So they, with that being that most likely the trees will probably be drier, potential for forest fires may increase. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed that doesn't repeat what last year happened. And like California, we had a really weird snowpack. Obviously, we're a little higher elevation, so the rain turns into snow. And it finally, as of March, started to look like December in the mountains. Mm-hmm. It's getting there, but hopefully, and again, it's not just for the skiing and snowboarding and rafting, but like the water tables, because our water goes to California as well. Also, it just for safety of the forest. But it's interesting. I had a forest firefighter on the show, Monkey Dan. He invented a suspension trainer called the Monkey Bar. It's a really cool guy. You'd like him. And he actually talked about using fire to fight fire, like Metallica song.
There you go.
Got to bring back to Metallica.
There you go.
Yeah, and so they would set the fire before the fire would get there to pre-burn. And also, this is very unique, but it helps regeneration in the soil. So it's like a necessary evil, right? It's just when man gets homes and lives in between what nature does on its own that it gets real tricky.
I've learned that many years ago that when you try to mess with Mother Nature, it will come back and kick you in the butt.
Oh, yeah. She's way bigger than us.
Well, for example, in Minnesota, the border between Minnesota and North Dakota, there's a river called the Red River. And actually it flows north into, is it Lake Winnipeg or something like that? And so Fargo, North Dakota, let's see what else is up there. There's a couple other cities on that river, but they've actually diked the river so strongly that it doesn't have the normal areas to dissipate when it floods. So then all of a sudden you have this area can't dissipate, this area can, so the water level gets higher and higher. And so it ends up flooding the towns. Like Fargo got flooded, almost the entire downtown got flooded at one point, just a number of years ago. But again, when they dike the river so they can put people there, live there.
Yeah.
But when you do that, you're just you're kicking the can down the road. And with Mother Nature, when you kick the can down the road, it becomes a bigger can and a bigger can. And then you end up having issues there. So again, when all these fires were happening in California last year, a lot of them were just natural fires. And so they're happening, but people are like, oh, we can't do this, or climate change and everything else. It's not climate change. Forests naturally burn, and then they regenerate. They burn, they regenerate. It's part of life and everything else. So you got to be careful with that. But still, when you start messing with it, it usually comes back with a roaring fire and kicks you in the butt.
Yeah, literally. Oh, well said. Yeah, there's so much expansion, human expansion, and nature's been here way before us. So that played nicely with her, for sure. Oh, this is great. Anything else you're working on over there? I know you're mentioning revisions for the snatch, and then potential revisions for the SFL program. Anything else you guys cooking up over there?
Well, personally, I'm actually writing a book right now. And
really?
It's about, yes. And you're the first person I've told about this. It's about kettlebell training. Human Kinetics is going to be the publisher for it. It'll come out sometime in spring of 2022. And everything else. I've talked to Pavel about this, so he knows about it. Pavel Tutzline. So I'm not going to say any more about it. Just telling you, I'm putting it together. So I'm going through the writing right now. So I do that in my off hours. I'm also potentially looking at possibly getting my PhD in exercise science / human performance.
Whoa, Doc, that's awesome on both accounts.
Yes. So I'm not 100% sure about the PhD. I got to be able to, the book thing comes first. So if I don't have time to do the book, then I'm not going to do the PhD at this point. But I've always said I wanted to get a PhD in exercise science, human performance, that kind of stuff. With the pandemic, some universities now have moved to almost a more online model for most of the training. So I'm possibly taking a look at that, and also I can keep my practice open and do that and everything else. So I told one of my patients, and he goes, so do I call you Doctor or Doctor Squared? I said, you're funny. Ha ha.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, I'm excited about the book. So I talked to Pavel a few weeks ago about it and everything else, and he seems to be excited about it. So yeah, it's not a StrongFirst book. It's nothing to do with StrongFirst, but Human Kinetics saw my chapter in Craig Leamonson's Rehabilitation of the Spine book. I wrote a chapter in there about barbell training. I think Andrea Chang wrote an article there about the hip hinge too. So we had a few of us people wrote chapters in there, and then they contacted me. So I'm excited to hopefully release that book here, or Human Kinetics release that book in spring of 2022.
2022. Oh, that's so great. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No problem.
I'll be the first person to buy a book. Sign me up.
Well, I'm getting the first copy. Okay. I'm telling you right now.
I'll buy number two. Two.
There you go. There you go.
Oh, that's great, Doc. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, this has been a lot of fun. Thank you for sharing that with us. I'm going to give plugs to all of where people can find you as well. Of course, on Instagram, Dr. Michael Hartle, and then Allen County Family and Sports Chiro. Is that
chiropractic? Yep. Yep. So we're on, my website for that is chiropower.com. It's, when you see a website for doctors' offices, there's not a lot of change to them. Because it basically is just more about where we are, what we do, who the doctor is, and that kind of stuff. So it's not like you go on a websites where you have constant change on a daily basis. So there's a blog article added, I think, every 2 weeks and stuff like that. But other than that, there's not a lot of change. But it's chiropower.com and everything. So I got that name back when like the internet was in its infancy. So I've had many people ask me to try to buy it from me. And I said, nope, I'm just going to keep that because it's when I was in powerlifting at the time. So that's where the power comes from, and the Chiro power. So it seemed to be a good thing with that. So
that's a great name. And how flattering. People want to buy your domain. That's
yes.
You did good. You did good, Doc.
Thank you.
This is great. I know it's coming up on an hour and I want to respect your time. Is there anything else you want to cover before we jump off here?
No, just having lots of fun right now. Obviously, the pandemic is, it's one of those things that I have a very strong immune system. I never get the flu shots or anything else, but I never get the flu. I never get sick. I've been sick in 6 years. Wow. So it's been a little bit frustrating dealing with all this stuff here with the masks and everything else. I understand why they did it. It is what it is. You do you, I'll do me, and everything else. Unfortunately, I think we've had some people that have gotten other people's business, and it's like, you know what, you do you, I'll do me. I do have I know after the goes to a mask advisory next week that we are going to continue to have some patients wear masks, and that's no problem. And a few of them said, "Will you continue to will you wear a mask when I come in?" I said, "Yeah." Well, so everyone on my staff knows that when patient X comes in, that we all mask up for him, and then when he leaves, we can unmask next week and everything else when we do that. So not a problem with that. If you get a vaccine, don't get a vaccine. You guys do you, I'll do me, and everything else. It is what it is. I've had a few patients ask me that, and I said, well, that's more of a personal thing.
Yeah.
And what you do is you, and we're good with that and everything else. So again, people are all about, whereas before this, no one said, hey, do you have the chickenpox vaccine? Have you gotten the measles vaccine? Have you your hepatitis vaccine? No one even asked about that. That's probably one thing I guess I would like to say is I hope the countries in the world don't go to this vaccine passport idea. We've never had that before with anything as far as whether the measles and mumps, even smallpox. I still got a scar on my arm. I was born in 67. Yes, I'm still 29, but I was born in 67.
That's great math.
but I got, I know it's awesome math. But I just got a scar on my arm from the smallpox vaccine, so everything else. So, but we've never had this when I've traveled around the world teaching StrongFirst events and coaching powerlifting, that no one ever said, hey, if you got your latest flu shot, if you have your latest hepatitis shot and everything else, no one said that before. Now we're kind of looking at this thing where, well, either you need to test negative 3 days before you come, or you need to have the vaccine and everything else. And then someone told me that they went to, one of their family members went to Aruba, and they had that thing where either be vaccine or you can be tested negative in 3 days prior. Well, they landed in the plane there and they said, show us your test. And so they showed them a test 3 days prior. They said, well, it's not good enough. You have to go through our testing, $150, please.
Oh,
now that's just from one patient to me. So who knows how the validity of that statement. But again, if you require that to come into your country, then accept, if it's a test by a lab, accept the test.
Yeah.
Don't say that. You should probably maybe put in fine print, hey, you know what? You can only be tested here.
Yeah. That's kind of the trap it there.
Yeah.
Well,
So then we have to wait for the results to come back. So then they have to quarantine, so they can't do their vacation stuff.
Yeah. Well, to your point, Alex the Hebrew Hammer was on here a few months ago, went to Hawaii, and he had a funny story. I'll let him tell it, but he got kicked out of Hawaii for that reason.
Kicked out of Hawaii?
Yeah. He has a much more elaborate way of saying it. He's Alex. He's verbose and entertaining. But yeah, he basically got kicked out of Hawaii because of that reason. He had to quarantine, get the test, and then they booted him.
Wow.
Yeah. And this was like in the middle. I think this was like in the summertime. I had him and Pat Flynn on. They were just riffing. It was a fun story. But yeah. Like to your point, we're all doing the best to stay healthy and do the right thing and follow the rules and get back to functioning and interacting and enjoying life again. And I hope that the takeaway for everybody going through this, and it's because it's a worldwide event, is a little more empathy and compassion and just kindness, hopefully, because we've all been through this together now.
Well, I'm thinking about putting together an article for StrongFirst and about COVID and strength training and everything else. I'm doing some research about that, both from a strength coach, my perspective, but also from my perspective as a doctor and everything else, and also a nutritionist too. But generally, and it's showing right now that people who do some type of strength training, or even if you want to even go more general, who do some type of exercising, whether it be riding your bike outside, walking, hiking, that kind of stuff, that generally, if they do get COVID, that their symptoms are usually less severe, or almost non-existent.
I can add to that for sure, Doc. Every person I work with, because they work with us together and they're active, they're outside, they get vitamin D, they ride their horses, a mountain bike, they get it. And my friend Modest Yahoo, he is, a little bit older than me, and he's back skiing, taking his grandkids skiing. He was down for about a week and a half, a little slow to recover on respiratory, but it is what it is.
Right. And again, I even tell patients who come in that, if you want to take a good multivitamin, not Centrum or one a day, but something like a good multivitamin, you want to take vitamin D, vitamin C, and take some zinc.
Yeah.
And if you want to go beyond that, even some fish oil to help as far as lubrication in your brain and the heart stuff. But those are some basic things you should be taking, especially in the winter months when we're not outside as much, not getting as much vitamin D. And even if you are, so I live in Indiana, you live in Colorado, the sun's a little bit stronger where you are because obviously you're closer to the sun than I am. I'm only about 700 feet above sea level. You're about over 5,000, 6,000. So, but still, we've got to get enough vitamin D. Vitamin D is a great antioxidant. Yes, it is fat soluble, so you do need to eat it with food, not between meals, but with food. But still, it's a great antioxidant, and it helps your body tremendously. We had a situation last year where I lost my sense of taste and smell. And people say that that's COVID. Now, it was just for a couple of days, and I was off work at the time. And we were doing something where I was off work for a few days. But again, I don't know if I had COVID. I could get other diseases that can lose your taste and smell, and I came back. Now with COVID, everyone said, well, you had COVID and everything else, but I had no other symptom, zero. Even my walking I set some new PRs, as I sometimes time my walking as far as routes I take, and even set new PRs. So obviously I didn't have any lung issues, no breathing, respiratory things going on. So who knows? And everything else. I just wore my mask in the office for a few days after, and none of my patients got sick. I didn't get sick. No one else got sick. So again, who knows?
Yeah.
So
like you, our last podcast, I literally had the 104 fever. It was as sick as I've been in a while. Not like pneumonia level or like bronchitis, but it's pretty sick. And I don't like you. I don't really get sick very often. And I had just got done meeting at Outdoor Retail with like 55,000 people, 10,000 of them from other countries. So anything's possible. But back then we didn't have like antibody tests. It was February. It wasn't even a thing in America yet.
Right. And that's why I didn't even get it tested, because I didn't feel like I even had COVID. I had no other symptoms. I've had a lot of patients who have had symptoms. So again, who knows if I had it, but done and gone, and it's over with. So
no, I'm with you on that. This has been a fun chat. And if you need any references from my people about their recoveries from COVID, I'm happy to provide those too for your article.
I appreciate that. I may actually quote you on some things. So
yeah, I got some great resources. I keep diligent notes of all my people I work with.
Excellent. Cool.
Well, Doc, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. It just flies by. I can't believe it's been an hour. And we didn't even talk about Metallica that much, only twice, I think. And we didn't mention any humorous jokes.
Well, let's talk about Metallica. So Metallica, you did that drive-in theater thing last year. Did you hear about that?
No. Oh,
okay. Yeah. So they were obviously not, just like any other band or rock star or country music star. They weren't playing concerts, and that's where they derive a lot of their income from. So Metallica came up with an idea that they would actually play together in some remote place in California or someplace, and they actually would basically go to drive-in movie theaters. So you had to go to a drive-in movie theater to watch it. So I went down to Huntington, a town about 20 miles from here. My middle son, who's a Metallica fan, he came with me. We went and got some pizza. We sat outside my truck and everything else and watched a bunch of other people there, and we watched Metallica play a concert. So you can say I went to another concert, but not in person, because obviously they were on the screen there. But I guess they played it at over 300 screens across the country.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, it's either, when was it? So August or September. I can't remember when it was. But yeah, it was actually pretty cool. We watched it and got done about 11:30 or so, and
like a typical concert.
Yeah, and the four guys were there playing, and you could see all the people setting things up were wearing masks, and obviously the four band members were not wearing masks, but they were actually kind of socially distanced away from each other with all that, and it was good. It was a good concert. So it was
awesome.
So I've seen him 8 times now. 8 times I've seen him in concert. So
that's great. What was your first concert with Metallica? What tour was that?
That was 2004 here in Fort Wayne. I think, what concert was that? Can't remember which album that was after. But they played in our Memorial Coliseum. We're a town of about 300,000, so they have a place where our semi-pro hockey team plays and everything else. They played it in the theater in the round, right in the middle there. And then I went up to Detroit at the old Detroit Pistons place, Palace, I think they call it. Anyways, went and saw them there like 2 months later. So I saw them 2 times in a row, and I told my wife at the time, I said, I want to go see Metallica before they retire. Of course, in 2004, I didn't think they'd be going till 2021, but they're still kicking butt and everything else. And if I have to, I'll fly someplace. But they came to Fort Wayne, and it was an awesome concert. Enjoyed it thoroughly. So it was just, it was great. I think the best concert I've been to, though, was at US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis. It was August 20th of 2016 or something like that. And my sister joined me. And I think that was her first Metallica concert. And the Minnesota had just built that US Bank Stadium where the Vikings were going to be playing. And they hadn't even played a game in there yet. And so on Friday night, they had a country star, then Saturday night Metallica. And the acoustics inside that stadium, because they have a glass roof, was just amazing. I mean, I could hear Hetfield, and I can understand all the words he was saying. in addition to hearing the music loud. So it was the first time being able to actually, because a lot of times when you're like, we saw him in Detroit Tiger baseball stadium, outdoor stadium, in July of 2017, and it was okay, but it's such an open air thing. You lose some aspect with that. But the US Bank Stadium was probably the best sounding concert. And then I found out that Metallica, I'm sure other bands do it too, they offer, you can purchase after the concert, like for like $9 or whatever else, the MP3s of the concert.
Oh, I jump on that.
Yeah. So when you look at it, you go to Metallica.com and you can do that and everything else, and you can get it, and they send it to you in digital files. It kind of brings back memories of back the old Napster days when Metallica sued Napster and basically shut it down. But then now they're selling the MP3 files, and because obviously they have the huge mixing boards, like your mixing board there, but times like 5,000 and everything. So they have all these people that are recording it. Why not? And so
Why not?
yeah, I listen to the concerts when I'm doing work or whatever else. I just listen to them, and it sounds fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome, Doc. And I hope other bands do that too, because what a great way to relive the memories. And like, I was there. I remember this song when the crowd went wild, and like, what a great experience. And $10 is a bargain. And yeah, I did use Napster back in the day, like most everybody.
Hey, I did too.
Yeah, tons of Napster. But if I could give $10 to a band to relive that special event, it would in a heartbeat. Why not?
I would. I agree.
Just good business. Oh, that's fantastic. Oh, thank you for sharing that. You're going to laugh at this. It's pretty anticlimactic. My first Metallica one was the Black Album and Use Your Illusion with Guns N' Roses. It would have been a great concert, except for my ride did not pick me up. So,
oh my God, you had tickets to that concert?
I had tickets to that concert. It was, yeah. But how cool would that be?
I remember when Guns N' Roses came out with Use Your Illusion 1 and 2. Those were some of the two most anticipated albums like all time.
Yeah, they're like magnificent orchestrations of big long songs, and then Metallica's Black Album, Bob Rock, super produced. Some of your favorite songs are on there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was looking forward to that concert, but didn't get to go. I know, super anticlimactic answer.
Have you ever been to a Metallica concert?
No, I have not.
Oh, you should go.
I know. I grew up like my favorite albums are Justice for All, Master of Puppets, Ride of Lightning, and then Garage Days Revisited is one of my favorites, covering some punk songs.
The last few years, Metallica has always finished. Their very last song is Enter Sandman. And it always ended with that song, because obviously that's probably the most popular song of all time.
Yeah.
But they also play generally Seek and Destroy. They usually play One. One's interesting because when they play with their big video screens behind them, they have the images of the soldiers and everything else, where One is kind of derived from.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite interesting. And they play that other song, Fuel, which is from Load after the Black Album. They have Fire. And go through it. They even have Fire, I think, going through some like little spigots in the ground and everything else, and all that kind of stuff. So it's pretty cool.
I will make it a point to travel if I have to go see Metallica. I literally grew up on Metallica. That's why I play guitar. Yeah, I'm going to relearn Orion later tonight, actually, and I'll play it for you.
Well, good job. That was actually Cliff Burton's. Was that his? I think it's Cliff Burton's main song.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a huge bass song.
Is it like the bass middle part right there?
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and Cliff Burton, if you don't know, if you're a Metallica fan, was the bass player up until Master Puppets when they recorded, I think, in Sweden, and the bus rolled over.
Yeah, their bus actually rolled over, and Cliff was the only person that was hurt. I think the other members, we got some little Nixon cracks and everything else, but Cliff actually died in that bus accident. So, and then that's when Jason Newsted came on, and then of course now we have Robert Trujillo as a bass player.
Did he come from Suicidal Tendencies?
Yes, I think so. Cool. I think he played for with Ozzy or Black Sabbath or both or whatever else prior and everything else, but he's a good bass player.
That's cool. Yeah, he's fantastic. And Jason Newsted, great, came from a Flotsam and Jets, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, we like our metal. Doc and I like metal.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And, so it's interesting. The other day I was just finished a show called Bosch, which is on Prime Video. It's about an LA detective.
Oh, yeah.
And he's a big jazz guy. And I've never really liked jazz. I like classical music like Beethoven, Mozart. I sometimes listen to that stuff, especially after a training session where I've gotten so ramped up that I need actually something to kind of calm me down. And so I listen to classical music on the way home. My kids go, "Dad, what are you listening to classical music for?" I said, "Hey, I need to calm down here, okay?" Right. But anyway, so there's a guy named Chris Body, and trust me, I know nothing about jazz music. And he had a song on one of the episodes. So I actually did some looking on Apple Music with that. And so actually I bought a couple of his albums. He's got some good music. So I like it.
Cool. That's nice.
So I'm getting a little bit into jazz, just a tiny bit, but don't know a whole lot about it. So I'm just more of in my infancy stages with that aspect.
Well, that's fair. You're branching out. Like you, I like structured, minor, classical, Baroque music a lot, like Johann Sebastian Bach, and then Beethoven and Mozart, Paganini as well. But then death metal and heavy metal, because like they correlate very well. There are a lot of minors, a lot of really good appreciations. And jazz to me, like you're skipping notes and going on, getting all funky and getting outside of the boundaries. And so I have to learn to appreciate the diversity of that. Yeah. Oh, back to your point about listening to classical after training. So I used to DJ, I was a professional DJ for about 20 years.
Oh,
and so, yeah, that I keep a tempo about 133 to 135 BPM for the majority of the night. That was a good correlation to heart rate and dancing. Like people can sustain that. Now, if it was a really eager crowd, you get up to like 165, which is not sustainable, but you have to bring them back down somehow.
Interesting.
So yeah, we would use, like you're doing, music to modulate and hopefully not control, but like, help calm people down and get them into the right place.
Right. Well, and I could listen to no music and still calm down, but generally I would listen to something other than heavy metal, forehead banging against brick wall, bleeding type of music there, which I just needed to do to be able to get my squats or benches or deadlifts in the gym and that kind of stuff. And now I need to calm down so I don't rip someone's head off at home and just, kind of thing. So.
Yeah. The yin to the yang, it all balances out.
Exactly.
Oh, I dig it. Oh, Doc, this has been an absolute pleasure. I don't want this to end, but I know you have to get back to your things. I'm going to have links for Chiro Power and your Instagram. And thank you for sharing about your new book coming up. I will definitely, I'll be the second person in line to buy the book after you. And
well, thank you. I've been honored to be asked to do it. And I'm enjoying putting it together so far. So,
oh, I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you very much, Doc. You're an awesome person, a great mentor. And thank you for your time today. We all
thank you. It's an honor to be with you, sir, and look forward to hopefully seeing you in person again sometime.
I am looking forward to that very much. And to Engearment.com, YouTube viewers, listeners, and podcast listeners, this has been Michael Doc Hartle, one of my favorite mentors for the Engearment.com pod show. Sean Sewell, until next time, take care.
Yeah. See you, mister.
Take care.